Alright, when you have the 2 inside, that gives you squishing it down twice as far. So since this one went out 4, now it'd be all the way back at 2. This one was all the way out at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now it's up at 3. It was squished into 3. This one's at -4. Now it's squished into -2. Then the absolute value part takes all the y values, since f of x is y values, takes all the y values and makes them positive. So all these guys have to be positive. That's why they go up like this. So instead of being a -2 here, it's a +2. Sine over cosine. Well, cosine's 0 here. You can't divide by 0. Square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. But this one's negative, so it'll be a -1. Anything divided by itself is 1. Sine over cosine, so 1/2 over square root of 3 over 2. The cosine is negative, so it gives me a negative. That's just simplified. I need 1, tangent to be 1, so that's a 45-degree angle, which is something divided by 4. So in this quadrant, it's 5 pi over 4, and it has to be in this one because it's a negative divided by a negative. This one would be a negative tangent. And I screwed up. I gave you the same problem here, just going backwards to the other. You got one of them right, you should have got the other right. If you need more time on a problem to look at it, just hit pause. All the work's shown. I'm just hitting the highlights here. X plus 6 squared, that whole thing's squared, and then I have to multiply it by 3. That's just using the log rules there. Since I have the log of 2 on each side, I just don't have to take the log of 2. Multiply it all out, get it equal to 0, factor, and then just check to see if they work. -6 plus 6 is 0. You can't have the log of 0. So that one doesn't work. This one is about, what, 5 1/3, so -5 1/3. So that's going to end up being positive. That'll be positive, so that one works. Most mistakes happen by not squaring the 2x. You squared just the x, so it should be a 4x squared here. So just double check that. And the second mistake came that you just threw away that part of the log instead of using the definition of log where it's 2 to the -2 equals this guy. So it's 1/4 equals that. A lot of solving errors here. You can just cross multiply or butterfly, whatever you want to call it, and then solve. That one didn't work, this one worked. Most people got that one right. You could have left the 5 out, or you could have distributed it to all of them. I took either answer. Boy, that one looked ugly. Switch the x's and y's since I'm finding the inverse. I use the log rule. Log base 2. Logs are always equal to the exponent, so the exponent's over here. Then all I have to do is subtract 3 and then divide by 2. Switch the x's and y's. Multiply by the common denominator. I factored out a y. I didn't show it here. The step in between would be y, and then you would have 4x minus 8 divided by 4x minus 8 on each side. And there you go. Drew my picture from pi over 2 all the way to 3 pi over 2. And the sign is negative, so it's down here in this quadrant. So my cosine's also going to be negative because it's a negative right there. Use Pythagorean's theorem. Still getting a couple people just multiplying that by 2. It's squared. 7 times 7 gives me 49. Subtract it to the other side. Square root. So the square root of 40. I didn't write square root of 40. is equal to square root of 4 times the square root of 10, and the square root of 4 is just 2, and the square root of 10 is square root of 10. So there's my cosine. We said it was negative already. Tangent is just the sine over the cosine, and then I just simplified it. I need to get rid of the square root of 10 in the denominator. So I multiply the square root of 10 over square root of 10. Square root of 10 times square root of 10 is just 10. 10 times 2 is 20. And it's 3 times square root of 10. Amplitude is half this distance from the top to the bottom. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So half of that's 4. Boom. And the frequency, or the B value, is, let's see, I can only see half of the graph, so if I go from here to there, there to there, that is 4 pi, so that's only halfway. So the full period would be 8 pi. So once again, my advice is to write that down because you may need it again later. And to find the frequency, or the B value, it's 2 pi over 8 pi, and that would be 1/4. So that's why I have 1/4. The middle of the graph is at -5, so -5 minus 5. Cosine starts at the top. Cosine is 5 pi over 4. Sine starts in the middle and goes up, and that would be 3 pi over 4. Graphing sine. Well, this one's actually a negative sign. It's up 6 over pi over 2. I put a dot. I label it. Then I have to go the period away from it. So I have to find the period. Well, the period is just 2 pi over the frequency, or B value. Boom. So it's 2 pi over 3. So I have to go 2 pi over 3 away from that spot and put my other point. So I just go pi over 2 plus 2 pi over 3. And that's what I did here. Common denominator 6. Add them together. So that's 6 and 6, and this is 3 pi, and that would be 4 pi, so that would be 7 pi. So I go over and mark my spot at 7 pi over 6, comma 6. Go right smack in the middle, put a dot. I know it's going to go down 5 and up 5. Draw my picture. Cosine is a little more difficult for many people. So if my amplitude is at 2, it starts at 2, and then I subtract 7. Subtract 7, I get down here to -5. Then I need to go back to 5 pi over 2, all the way over here, put a dot, label it. So -5 pi over 2, -5. Now I have to go the period over. The period is just 2 pi over the B value. So that's 4 pi. So I have to go add 4 pi to this guy. So -5 pi over 2 plus 4 pi. That gives me 3 pi over 2. Run across over here, put my dot, right smack in the middle. It's going to go down 2 to the middle, and then 2 more to go to the minimum. So it goes woo, and it goes on forever. This is just one little cycle of it. Just like that one. It goes on forever and ever and ever and ever.